I think entertainment law followed me. That was definitely not my area. And it started with Makadzi.
I was coming there.
It started there, and there are still friends of mine who don't talk to me because of that. I'm sorry.
You are the reason she's not coming into the country.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
You are the reason she's not coming into the country, because I think was it the same dudes that actually went against BNR as well? Well, is it the same guys who came to you?
No,
or
it was
a different
crew? It was a different.
Hey, so Bono, what was that thing? She didn't come for a concert?
Yes, you get paid SCAR to come and perform, and you don't perform.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really that simple. It's either you're going to refund. But then the other thing in law is that it's not as easy as I'm going to refund.
Yeah.
The reputational harm of people, some people bought tickets knowing they were going to meet her. Yeah. And they get there and everyone knows she's coming, and she doesn't come, and she puts it on Facebook that I'm not coming. So the price you pay. Oh,
that was used also.
Yes. The price you pay for not coming, right? So I think I'm happy because your industry sky is growing. One, South Africa is even the amount of money we pay or South African musicians are paid compared to local artists.
Yeah,
it's really painful. It's not even 10%. It's really painful. So at what point are we going to take ourselves serious enough, even as local artists, to say you're booking me for $250,000, right? Yeah. And we've got talented musicians, and oh my God, So yeah.
I need you to give me one more case.
The other
Which one is the other one that made the news and we didn't know where you were there? Because I'm starting to see a trend, and I think because in the music fraternity, word of mouth.
I did the opposite recently, actually, last year, December. I actually, it was the opposite, right? So with my Kazi, it was, we're going to detain you until you pay, right? But with Sheba Shit, I did the opposite, right? Sheba Shit was given money to come and perform, and he didn't come and perform. And I think there was a warrant for his arrest. So then I had to go to court, and we had to make payment of that. There's that one. I think I don't want to continue.
No, we want one more.
Why?
No, because you know what? I think it's possible, young black men and women, to get legal representation and things actually fall on your side. I think we've just given up on so many things right now.
People of different identities. Podcast with PODI-CAST.
Yo, what's popping, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the PODicast. You're hanging out with your boy SCAR as usual on Wednesday, and we have nothing but a brilliant guest today, switching it up, moving away from the music. People are already getting mad at us. It's like, yo, you guys really need to chill talking about Peasy. Peasy's our guy. He's just very influential in the music industry, and that's why he has his handprint on so many things. But shout out to the Eskimos for breaking it down for us. We enjoyed what you guys were saying on the comments. And Local Corner is in the house as usual. You can check us out on the streets of YouTube, on that page. Like and subscribe, and make sure that you check out all of the good stuff that they have lined up for you up in there. Where Leo's in, they are in Sabong, they are in Mogoritani, they are also in Gaborone, right next to Middle Star. So if you and your friends are hanging out in Gaborone, or you have some people coming in, these days, I don't think a lot of people want people sleeping at their houses, something, there's a pool, there's Wi-Fi, there's all kinds of amenities here. So make sure that you check them out. Leo's in, they're also on Facebook, but that's not what we're here for. We're here with a very, very high achiever. I think I'm probably even older than you, but you're out here. She drove in a Benz, dog. What? God, we gotta up ourselves, man. But she's a very high achiever, and she has her own law firm. She has a law firm with her name at the door. She starts off with the name at the door, and she's done some trials that some of you might not know about. Hopefully she'll be able to talk to us about it. We absolutely love that she's as brave as she is, and she's a young woman in Botswana doing her thing, and also a founder of an anti-GBV organization which firmly believes in an independent woman is a liberated woman. So she focuses highly on family law. Without breaking further ado, man, she's here to say it all and break it all down for us. In the house, we're joined by Njiramanda Mbewe Boatey. Boatey. I thought I had it. She's in the house, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how do I pronounce it?
You said it very well, actually. The first name is the one that's always butchered. So Njiramanda Mbewe Boatey. Njiramanda ka Setswana ke tsela ya ko le godimo.
Okay. Why did I think Njira was like blanket or something?
Yeah, ke tsela.
Kiss a guy.
Kiss Zambia.
Oh, okay. Where'd you get a Zambian name?
Because my parents are from Zambia.
Oh, your parents are from Zambia.
Yes.
Okay, so break it down for me. Where did you grow up?
Okay. So I was born in the Copper Belt in Dola.
Okay.
And then I grew up here. My parents relocated here. Kiteni Koi Tumeleng Primary School. And then SSKM. And then Kozola.
Okay.
Naledi Senior.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So Zambian born. I'm a Botswana. Born. Well, not born, bred and battered. Yeah. Born in another place, bred and battered. And then Boatey neki rewa mogana ukikopane lene. Mo Botswana. Lene utswa ko molepolole, so I assume ke mo kwena.
Nice one.
Yes,
and,
so that's
what are your parents into? Like, how did they end up in Botswana?
My parents came a long time ago in the 80s, but la hodira insurance.
Okay.
At the time, it wasn't really that established then. So they came in and then they came and established themselves in the insurance industry.
Okay.
So they've been doing that for as old as I am. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, Scar.
Yeah. No, we're ultimately going to try and get into that. The timeline have a way of exposing this. But we're very, very happy because you are a busy woman. I mean, you just came in. Excuse me. You just came in from court. For those who don't know, you are in the law profession. What can you tell us what you are up to today? Why is your day ending at like 5:00?
Matata manzi. You would think that with our population, there are not a lot of issues, but there are a lot. Commercial issues, labor issues, family, and entertainment as well. So you find that the demand is very high. The good thing about us, I think, as a firm is that we don't really like turning people away. We want to accommodate mongwe. So it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of, we work within your means. And I think that's where the problem is. There's a fear, if I'm going to see a lawyer, then I need to have a lot of money. And Rona, we don't believe in that. Everybody should have access to justice. It's very important. That's
a scare for a lot of us. Like a lot of us think, it's going to be a lot of money. Even if it's like a traffic offense, sometimes people end up getting into trouble because you could have gotten representation, but we always think, what? So you're here to say, it's not that crazy. Before we go further, we made you a drink. Our friends at Drinks Direct. It's called an Aspirational Spritz. So it's like a mixture. I want to get all of the ingredients right, and you'll tell me what you think about it. You had a taste as well.
It looks really good.
You fill it up with ice. Fill it up with a quarter of bubbly. We have Cinzano, it's a Prosecco. And you pour a double shot of Aperol, which is this one here, and you pour a dash of soda water and a slice of orange. So
I'm just taking the mixologist with me.
But what do you think about it? How does it go down?
Good. It looks beautiful. It tastes beautiful. These are one of those drinks that the next day you ask yourself, like, what happened? It's so tricky. It's so good. Yeah.
So you really won't tell us what year you were born? Because I'm serious. Like, I really want to know.
I was born in 1987.
1987?
Yes.
See, I told you, like, I'm way older than you. Like, are you like a high achiever from like an early age, or do you feel like your timing and how you've been able to like do what you do?
Two things. The first one, my father was very strict growing up. I'm the first of 4 children. And so my father, I think it was like drill sergeant. It's one of those things where you feel like your father wanted a firstborn son and got a girl, and he was like, it's fine, I'll do whatever I can with this one, right? And then the other thing, I was very intentional. Everything that I do, I'm very intentional about what I do. If I don't feel that there's a need for me to do it, then I don't do it. So I think intentional, focused, and having a father who was really on my neck.
Definitely. So that was the homestead. It was your mom, your dad, and your siblings, boys and girls. Is that a mixture?
Yes, there's one boy. He's the third.
Okay.
The second one is a girl, and the last one is a girl as well.
All right. So public school, you know. usually like when people, parents migrate. I had a lot of friends whose parents migrated into Botswana in my neighborhood. That's why I speak so well. Yeah. I had no other choice. I had to communicate with my friends.
Yes.
And, a lot of them, they chose to take their kids to private school.
Yes.
Was there a reason why your parents chose, you're a Neo, they're going to be immersed in the culture?
I think looking for a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
I think when you also go to certain places like private schools, not that it's bad, but at the time, we were welcomed by the community. It became like part of a village.
Yeah.
So going to a public school was just natural. That's one of them. The second one, they wanted to save for university.
Okay.
So you find on that when I finished my Form 5 I then went to South Africa that's why I did my LLB.
Yeah.
So they were saving for university because that was the ultimate or the most important one for them.
Yeah.
But public schools at the time, I enjoyed, those were the best days of my life.
Yeah.
No, really, I was happy. I was really at my happiest.
You know what's crazy about you? It's like we really did. It's not like I met you once when we were at the GICC.
Yes.
And then, and your energy immediately, it reminded me of someone I know. And then also when you came here also, it's like, you read about someone and then you see all of what they've done, but then, hey, I'm gonna connect us in a different way. It's like I really felt it's like, you're in there. I dig this one. So, do you think that's also like how you are able then to connect with like the people that ultimately your career is about? You are able to connect with like the average Motswana.
Yes, being genuine, being humble.
Yeah.
Not thinking that you are better than the next person, and also understanding why you do what you do. I think for me, getting into law was never about the money. It was always about fighting for the voiceless, and I knew from way back that I wanted to do law. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm really grounded. Material things don't mean anything to me. Yeah. Relationships mean a lot to me, so yeah.
Awesome stuff. And in your educational background and, any experiences during your, your studyings influenced you ultimately becoming a lawyer?
Yes, debate. There was a lot of debate. I remember.
I hated that thing.
I used to debate. Actually, you'd be surprised whom I debated with. I was in the same class with Melo, Tuto, yes, Pito. Yes, we're in the same class.
Yeah.
The Kino.
Oh,
Mahosi, I think they were Mahosi together. Yes,
election.
yes.
Yeah,
no, we used to go. I think growing up, I was that girl who you would find among the guys. Yeah. I think because I was raised like a guy.
Yeah.
So I was always the girl with the guys. Yeah. And then the girl also who was not liked by other girls because I was with the guys. Yeah. But I wasn't with the guys for what they thought I was with the guys for. Yeah. I just really loved the energy. Guys don't hold grudges. Yeah. Guys are real and honest. They forgive quickly. They're genuine. All those things. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
So in all of that, so we feel our debate. But how about the education side? How were you faring with because no pasakana no tiba
Tataska.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I was really
we have
good.
A family. Is that your sister?
No, that's my PA.
Oh, that's your PA.
Yes.
Okay, no, cool stuff.
You are going to ask her. No, English literature. Okay. Those ones I would pass even with my eyes closed. I used to read a lot. I think I still do. And so. Yeah, pretty much history, English literature. And I can see how that is helping me now. Yes, so I think it also takes us back to being intentional. Yeah. If I'm going to pursue a career which is not math related or science related, then maybe focus mostly on what is going to help me. Yeah. And so, I got into the habit of reading, knowing things that happened in the past. And that's pretty much what the law is. Yeah. Cases from Boholo and all of that. So, yeah.
Because, you're really successful. I think if people do...
No,
wait. Hey. We have only important people here.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
thank you for having me.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. You are 3 years younger than me. And I'm seeing you're really, really focused from a very early age to be able to have your name on the door.
But Sky, they say women are... Like you're maybe older than me.
Oh goodness,
mature age.
Yeah. My little sister thinks the same thing. She's your age. No way. I'm
Okay.
older. So I'm thinking, well, when did your career path show itself in all of that education and also when being yourself and being the parent when your parents are not home? The little that I know about having more than one sibling is that you're co-parent. So how then do you carve out a career path that ultimately leads you to the law? Do you know you're going to write, were these your first choices? Your parents about what you want to do?
Yes, I knew. I started talking when I was 11 months.
Yeah.
And apparently my first word was cockroach. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You better ask them.
Like what was happening? Were there a lot of cockroaches around, you know? But I did start talking early. They did say that I had the gift, you know?
Right.
And from as far as I can remember, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. Yeah. I can't really pinpoint as to which lawyer or who really inspired me, but I knew I wanted to be that. And like I said, for me, it was helping. I think this is because of some of the things that happened in my life. I'll give you an example. At one point, my father went through an unfair dismissal at work, and he was the provider, you know, and now here we are. I'm almost about to finish law school, and it's really, really tough, you know. And I had to step in, you know, learning how to draft that summons from the beginning. And we ultimately did succeed in court. But I think it wasn't really much about succeeding in terms of money, but succeeding in terms of it's not okay for people to do bad things to others. And I felt it firsthand. And I don't think that as a person you must wait to feel it first before you empathize with someone. You know, so I think that's where it came from. It came from experience, from going through a tough situation, and also when someone comes into my office and tells me this is what I'm going through, I can feel what they're going through. I understand, and sometimes it's almost being that person who is a ray of sunshine or a ray of hope, you know, because you are the only person they have. And this happened to me earlier on. I didn't think I was going to have my own law firm. That happened out of necessity. And I believe I'll explain that later on as we proceed.
Definitely. All right. So being Botswana, how do you see, cultural background? You have, different types of cultural background and, but you are assimilated into Botswana. How does, culturally, Botswana, how do people, do you think, view the law? And is it something saying, or people are quick to want to use, the culture of using the advocate, Botswana? How do you think that is right now?
Right now, it's different. It was very difficult in the beginning. Like I said, lawyers were only for those with money. And in fact, there was this thing, and it wasn't, we would say, but it's not okay. Yes, you can let it go, but what does the principle say? And then for now, the issue is, so it means we're enabling those who mistreat, because we have money. If this person comes, we're going to use the financial muscle. So if we reached a point really Batswana where we stood up for anything that was wrong based on principle, then it would take away the power that the so-called financial bully or financial entity or financial person has. So to be David versus Goliath type of thing, trying to give them that hope to say, you too are equal before the law. And that's another thing I'm very passionate about. Being equal before the law, if we say our constitution says we are all equal, then it should mean that. It shouldn't mean that the one with money is more equal than me. And how do we show that when we are now before a court? Make a decision based on what is right, not based on the fact that I have the best and I'll put that in best lawyer or best. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about what the law is, what is right and what is wrong.
Definitely. How look South Africa studying to be a lawyer? Were you always this focused?
Am I focused now?
Did you just hear the answer? You broke down.
Really? Okay.
You could drop a pin here. Everyone is like, you have that. I think that's probably why you win a lot of the cases. We're trying to get that. We're trying to understand it. All right, you can have a sip of your drink. We're trying to get it because I think you command the room. I think right now it just happened. We were all just awesome.
Okay, thank you.
While you got your point across, and it's a very, very powerful thing. But when you were younger,
yes,
were you that focused in school? Because you're talking to a fourth-year dropout. I always say that.
Well, look at you now.
I was at the door. It took a lot, but how focused were you on getting where you were getting? And you don't seem like you lack social skills.
Not at all.
So how were you able to balance? How was your varsity life?
Okay, firstly, I'm Libra.
Yeah.
So I know when it's time to play and when it's time to party. Yes,
balance.
Yes, I'm very good at that. When it's time to party, I think you met the other side just a few minutes ago, right?
Yeah. You were just ready to just.
Sometimes I think people say I have split personalities because I'm a different person at work. I'm a different person when it's party time. I'm a different wife, person when I'm a wife. I'm a mother. So timing, but. I don't know. Hey, Nikki, I was that person in the club. You'd look for. I was right underneath there. So yes, no. I know when to have a good time, and I know when it's time to be focused.
And while you were at varsity, because like you say, your parents paid for you, and you had all of these other people there on DTF sponsorships. How were you different from them, and what do you think about self-sponsorship versus the sponsorship that we take for granted? 4 years.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
There was pressure.
Yeah.
Hey. So how about 5 a.m. that 1 hour, So at the back of my head, I knew who I was and where I was coming from. I'm the first person in my father's family to graduate from university. So yes, thank you.
Applause, mommy.
So we were trying to break some things as well, right? We're trying to break some things, but I think there was pressure, and then I also feel that sometimes it's okay to let children be, because I felt it, and I know what pressure can do to you. And maybe when you speak to me, you say to me, "Hey, Njirakana, you're too." I don't take note of that, but maybe that could be a result of having been under a lot of pressure, So I knew I was not going to get a second chance. It was do or die.
Yes.
It was do or die. And there were times I remember I used to say, why wasn't I a boy? Things would have been easier if I was a boy. I'm this tiny young lady, And then my mother would say to me, no, you are the right person for the right, So there was that. But there was pressure. And I do know some of my friends, they were sponsored. But they managed to hate. So I really think it's about different journeys as well. Our journeys are not the same. And I don't fault them. They have their own journey. And I think that's also very important as we get into this, because I also realized what my journey was about earlier on. Right? So,
Why family law?
I think it loves me. And actually, recently, I was saying, I think entertainment law has started following me. Entertainment law is stalking me.
Because I think that's also in the very little excerpts about you out there, because there's not a lot of news on.
Yes.
I tried to Googleize you. I know only very, very few and far between.
Then I'm doing good if there's nothing to find.
Hey, what are you doing very, very well? But family law is what pops up a lot.
Yes.
So why did you gravitate towards doing that?
Because I know how it is to come from a point of need. I know how it is to come. The truth is this. For men, it's different in a lot of things. I've been able to see the privileges that men have had over women. Even in our fraternity, I've been able to see it, And even when you look and say, okay, how many female-led law firms are there as compared to male? Which ones were the first ones that started? Even when you look at partners in a law firm, you'd find four men and 1 woman, and you're like, is the woman there for aesthetics, or is she genuinely, all that? So I've seen the privilege that men have had over women. Also, back in the day, before Ronabo and Jira started working, our mothers were staying home, which means our fathers then had the financial muscle, right?
The power.
Yes, and some of them now are put in a state of abuse because you need money for this and you need money for that, and there's abuse in all different forms, not only financial abuse, emotional, verbal, ke kopa madi a ke ne ke go hile madi maabane, you know, so there's that. And then there's children. I have a soft spot for children. I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I'm the...
It's been the eldest. Maybe being the eldest.
Yes, that's true. Maybe it's a trauma response, Scar.
Because my mom is like always out there, and they have to remind her, "Oh, you are not our mother." So Horaro's kind of the mother hen tendencies.
Yeah, and a mother hen all over the place, you know. And I'm just like, so that too. I'm just trying to balance the equation to say, okay, let's now try to tilt things to a position where Libonebo may are able to benefit. You know, I think that's why family law. So I've just had a lot of women and men actually come and say, I'm going through this situation or that situation. Another very interesting thing was that 2020, I did get on radio for a bit, and we spoke about a lot of issues relating to the home. We were
Which
shocked.
radio station is this?
It was Do My Fam. I was with Tebe Mogapi.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and it happened. It was like a 15-minute slot. And then we realized, oh my God, there are a lot of problems. You know, you're stuck in the house for 14 days, and then this monster rears its head, and you didn't even know that you had problems. So that then really showed the fact that we had a lot of issues concerning families, women, men, children. We also realized that a lot of men didn't know that they were being abused. Right? There was this thing that only women get abused, but then men also being abused. Also the types of abuse. We only knew the physical one. We didn't know about the emotional, psychological. So the Domestic Violence Act as well. I had to do a lot of reading on that, and I really got to realize that our country really has great laws where domestic violence is concerned. But maybe to some extent, enforcement is not as strong, and that's why we have very high numbers of abuse and killings. What
do you think about this? Something pops up, you know, between a married couple, and then the first thing that everyone wants to do is to call the elder brothers and the elder sisters, and everyone comes and sits there. And I have my own opinion about those setups. What, as someone who practices with the law backing you, what do you think about those setups? Is that the best way to try and fix conflict within marriages?
I will speak from experience as a married woman and from the law as well. I do not believe in third parties in the sense of family, right? Because some of the divorces I have done, it is because there has either been a mother or a sister or an aunt who's actually the person, or a friend who is behind pushing for a divorce where maybe the marriage has not broken down irretrievably. And maybe where if people went to see Malaudi or went to see a pastor or went for marriage counseling, you could salvage something out of the marriage. But why both are these high divorce rates as well? Is it really because we don't know how to maintain a marriage, or it's because we don't know that it's sacred and what we should keep out? You know, I think family is important. You know, all of that. But
everyone looking pretty.
Because sometimes I've noticed when two people are together, they're happy. The moment a friend comes in, it would be, why is there one onion or tomato? The moment your mom comes in, you know. So I think third parties to some extent should be kept away, with all due respect. Not to say family is not important, but I think when two people meet, and if they can be left in that sacredness of how they met, and if there is need for help, by kope from batho ba eleng gore they have the expertise. Otherwise, from what I've seen, most divorces are due to families, brothers, all of that. Yes.
There's a lot of young people. I hope the weather is okay. I could have
everything is perfect. Okay. The mixologist, 10 out of 10.
I can check. Is everything okay? Because like these, you know, I really asked about this because I have intentions of getting married.
Okay, that's
good. And a lot of young people are getting divorced. Especially here in Gaborone. I just heard another story in one. It's about to get into Facebook. Oh, shame. Shame.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how it also ends up happening. It pops up on social media, and people don't even have a chance to even resolve it and speak to each other.
Yeah.
Why are young people breaking up like this? Like, my parents have been married for like 37 years,
Yes.
and it's not like it's easy to get to 40 years.
Yes.
How were they able to do it, and what do you think are some of the reasons why young people are getting divorced even under a year?
Yes.
They want to annul marriages.
Yes, I've actually this year done more annulments than I've ever done in the previous 12 years that I've been practicing, which is shocking. When I look at you speak of your parents, and when I look at my parents, I see them as being friends. They're always together. There's always that chair, those two couches at home. This is where mom and dad sit. So I try to emulate that. But what I've noticed is that now I don't know if the men have really reached a point where they've been mentally prepared for a working woman. Right? There's that.
Wait a minute. That's where the so-called emasculation supposedly comes in. Yes. Is it the guys or is it the women that have now got all of this power? I can take care of myself. So what do I need you for?
Well, okay, now I have to somehow not bring it to myself, but bring it to myself. I find myself to be I'm quite a challenge, right? Okay. No, I am actually. We should clap for my husband because wow. Yes, so it's been 7-8 years together, right?
Yeah.
So I think there has to be a level of self-esteem. There has to be a level of self-assuredness, and I don't think that we are training, like I'm saying, or teaching the male child how to be. Because remember, growing up, it's you're going to be at home, I'm going to provide. Now, things have shifted. The women are also providing. And if we're providing, how are we treating our counterpart? So it's something that both parties have to go through. And I always say two things. The first one, marriage counseling. We don't do marriage counseling. Yeah. I don't know why, right? And proper marriage counseling, not 2 weeks. Not that type of let's run and go. No, be intentional and serious about marriage counseling. Yeah. The second one, see a lawyer as well. Why? Assets, issues of assets. Materialistic things, you have this, I have that, your parents have this, your parents have those things do rear their ugly heads into marriage, right? So if you prepare for that now, I think then you can have a long and lasting marriage. But if you just I always give the analogy that we get medical aid because not that we're sick, but because we're preparing for a time that something happens. The same applies to marriage. The same applies to law as well. It's not about...
How do you even start the conversation? I mean, you're in the living room, maybe she's watching, I don't know, TV. How do you start that conversation without having them start thinking that maybe, what is this person preparing to do? Are they preparing to leave me? Or even at the beginning of trying to get together, I'm going to throw all of them at you. at the beginning of a marriage, you tell them, how do you start a conversation like that? Or is that why you get marriage counseling?
Yes. So you have your marriage counseling for the other issues, the emotional issues, you know, and then for the assets issues, this is where I think everybody can, when you sit with us as lawyers, we're able to say, this is like this is like that. I think it's about not feeling, I think it's about, there's this unrequited love where you feel that it's a one-sided type of love, right? It's about balancing everything to make sure everyone feels like they're part of the marriage, despite who has more than the other, right? So I think that's very, very important. Marriage counseling and sitting down with a lawyer to say, I have this, I don't have this. How are we going to do this when we get married? Where is this going? Where is that going? Because it gets very ugly, Scar. It really does get ugly. And I'm actually surprised that I'm still married after the things that I've seen. How I need to go for counseling. It gets really ugly, and it's not a nice thing. You see that there is actually a foundation of love, but everything of the world has just come into it and has just messed it up. It really gets ugly.
COVID, maybe. How has COVID, like, do you see more because of COVID? And what does that say about even how the marriages come about? Because now it just seems like it's a money thing now. Yes,
COVID unraveled a lot of things. If you cannot be with yourself for a long time, you have a problem. I'm with Scott today, I'm with this person. If you can't be alone, then you have a problem. And this is something I always tell people when I go to events where I speak. I always say, get to know who you are. I find myself to be the funniest person, Scar. Like, oh my, I crack myself up. No, really.
No doubt.
There's that. And then after that, can you be with your partner, just the two of you, locked up in the Big Brother house? Can you be, if you can't be in one space with your partner for 7 days, and that's what we saw. Remember, people were getting permits, and then they were like, oh no, you turn. And I'm just like, this is not working, right? So I think those are the foundations. Can you, when everything else is taken away from you, can you either be with yourself by yourself, or when everything is taken away, can you be with your partner? And if you can't, then you have a problem.
What are the most fulfilling things about doing family law for you?
I love connecting children with their fathers. I'll give you an example, fathers or mothers, but mostly fathers. Fathers from a perspective, a traditional perspective. If you did not pay damages for a child, sometimes the parents of the lady will not allow you to see your children. So it would be painful when a client comes and says, they don't allow me to get in because that is very painful. And I see the hurt in the father's eyes. And then we say, these deadbeat men, they don't look after their fathers. And I'm going to be honest, right? I don't know if people are going to like it or not, but facts, right? You don't look after such things. And on the other end, I have this man in my office and he just wants to see his children. And because of culture or custom, which I'm not saying we should not respect, but what is the most superior thing? Children having a relationship with their fathers or custom? I think there should be a balancing exercise again, right? And the most painful one, Scar, was not even one, more than one, was when mothers passed away during COVID and were left with their grandparents, and their grandparents did not have the means to look after them. But the father had the means. And when the father comes and says, we don't recognize you. Go and tell your uncles to come and tell. That was very, very painful. And the children are suffering, but the father has the means. And one of my clients actually used to go and see the children at school just so that he could see them. And so getting to a point where we've brought the family together, including the grandparents, that is just so fulfilling for me. Having cases also where we've contested divorces, where someone says, I want to divorce, and we're like, this marriage hasn't broken down irretrievably. And we fight for it, and then they make it, and they make something out of, a better home out of it. That is fulfilling. So, and then likewise, when someone is in distress, a man or a woman in distress, and the marriage is toxic, and you get them out, and you give them a second leaf at life. And you get into your office and you find, and when I tell them, you're going to get married again, and they're like, hell no, I don't want to. I get into the office and I just find you're cordially invited, and I open and I'm like, yes,
round two.
Yes, so those are the fulfilling aspects of my life where family law is concerned.
Awesome stuff. I want to start with a little bit, go back to, what was your first job? Before, you had, the power to like focus on what you want. What was your first job?
The first job I ever did was to be a waitress.
Oh, okay.
I was a waitress in 2010.
Okay.
Nagoya World Cup.
All right.
Ghana was actually playing, was it Portugal? In 2010, Ghana was playing Portugal. Yes. No, I remember because my husband is Ghanaian.
Oh,
before
so
I met him. Before I met him.
Hey, like.
Yeah, I was,
We're getting the scoop.
Yes, I think it's the time Asamoah Gyan missed the...
Oh, they were playing Uruguay.
Thank you.
Yes, it was Uruguay.
So I was a waitress at Cubana. And it's still, I actually went past there, it's still there. I was just like, oh yes, it's still there.
I was part.
Yes, and so I'm going to release the secrets of.
Come on.
I want to release the secrets of where my husband comes. So I was a waitress. I was a very good waitress. I was doing that while studying, and then instead of coming back home for the holidays, I knew that everybody was coming from out of the country, from outside the country, and they were tipping in dollars. And my parents were like, "Come home," and I'm going to be defiant this time. I'm not coming. So I went there. I lied. The interview, they asked me, "Have you been a waitress before?" I was like, "Yes." They're like, "What are you good at?" I'm like, "Dessert."
Yeah.
And they're like, "You're hired." So I got that job, and then I think the reason why they didn't win is because one of those days I think they passed by Cubana.
The players?
Yes.
Oh my God. We have an exclusive.
No.
No wonder he missed the penalty.
No. Scar, you're going to make my people disown me.
Oh
I'm joking.
my God.
I'm joking.
Is that like a place that was frequented by a lot of Ghanaian people?
Not really.
Yeah.
Actually, in South Africa, I find that there are a lot of Nigerian people.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot of Nigerian people more than Ghanaian. I hadn't met any Ghanaians until probably that time and my husband.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found them to be like quiet, hidden people that are very smart.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can you tell our mama so a lot of that out there as much as our other brothers?
Yeah.
But we're still on that subject of your husband. How did you meet him? And then we want your first job as a legal practitioner.
Okay. So in the legal field, when I graduated, I then was an intern.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that how it starts for everyone?
I think that's how it should.
Okay.
Yes, I was an intern, just waiting to really graduate.
Yeah.
I was an intern, and then from internship.
Internship in SA?
No, here.
In Botswana. Okay.
Yes. One advocate, prominent.
Do you remember where it is?
Yes.
Who? Who was the advocate?
My first. It was Advocate Pilani.
Oh, it was Pilani.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I see it also in the company thing.
Yes.
Where the summary about he used to work
that was
there.
my first boss.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first boss, and a part of me now is grateful for having had men around me, even though I feel like there were just too many men around me because I'm tough. But yeah, I was an intern there. Then from then on, I did my pupillage. Which
you can't just play Repilan like that. He's a big deal. Did you know? Did you know? Like, how did you get that gig?
Okay, so I had a friend who was working there.
Yeah.
We had gone to school together, go Naledi.
Oh, okay.
So she had done her LLB go Swaziland.
Okay.
So she said to me, "I'm leaving here, right? There will be an opportunity."
Yeah.
And this goes back to relationships, right?
Yeah.
There'll be an opportunity, so pass by. And I was, I was passing by every day. Every day I'm like, Dumelang, and until she then left, and then I got into that position.
Wow, man. Yeah. That's the right time, right placing. So what were you doing when you were in there? Like, what type of work were you able to learn anything that you later, put into place?
Strategy. He's a very strategic person, right?
Oh no, we know. The whole country knows.
Very strategic. And I think also that's another thing. In life, I don't think it's really much about what you know in terms of the substance, but also how you move, right? I mean, even if you're in the streets, right? You're street smart. It's how you move.
Yeah.
And I learned that from him. He's also extremely hardworking. I would finish would do legal research, would finish around 12 midnight. And then 4 a.m., he would be outside saying it's time to go. 4 a.m., literally 4 hours of sleep. Yes. And it became a thing. And now at work, in the office, I've realized that my staff are actually, they think I'm weird.
Yeah.
Because they wake up in the morning and they find emails that have been sent at 4 in the morning, at 2 in the morning, and they're like, when do you sleep?
Yeah.
So it became part of my routine. I now sleep late, wake up early, and that's what I've been doing for over the years. And it's normal. Very, very hardworking, man.
That's really, really awesome. So how do you go up on the ranks? How do we ultimately decide, I think I have enough to set up my own practice?
So from Advocate Pilani's firm, I then went to another firm. And when I was there for about 3 years. And then necessity. I think one thing that we need to be grateful for is that those difficult moments, which was one of the most difficult times of my life, hardest times of my life, harder than the time my father lost his job, was when my boss at the time decided that he was going to leave his firm and get into politics. And so when he left and got into politics, this is someone who was like my brother, my mentor. I was lost.
Yeah.
You know, he brought in other people, and our personalities were just not matching. He kind of understood me to say, this one is like this.
Yeah.
And so did Advocate Bilan.
Yeah.
But the ones that came in after, I think it wasn't the managerial style and my personality and accepting how I was and how I worked. That wasn't working.
Who was it?
Who?
The other boss.
Advocate Sadiq Ibona.
What is it with lawyers and the law and politics, though? Especially the really successful ones.
I think that's a question.
From the inside, haven't been in there, because here you are, you just want to do law.
Yes.
And out of nowhere.
I think, Sky, you're going to have to invite them to this show so that they can come and explain that. I've also been waiting for that answer. So please invite them. But maybe those are their aspirations.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But lawyers in Botswana really have a lot of aspirations. They do everything. Some of them do everything except the law.
Yes.
So what do you think about it is about being a lawyer that puts you at such an advantage, especially in Botswana? Because they do everything.
I would say, how do I put it? Okay, there's one answer that I think answers everything. And that maybe would be power. I think ultimately people want power wherever they are, whatever they do. Ultimately, you want to be powerful, maybe, and when you are where you are, you feel that I can actually get to or grow better if I attain this position. It's almost like going up the ranks, right? But maybe our ranks are different, right?
Okay.
That's one. The other thing is that lawyers are good at talking, right? So maybe when they go out there, they know what to say, they know how to sweet talk, well, except for me.
We'll see. There is enough time on the clock. We'll give you time.
So I think they're really good at what they say, and they're able to appeal. And then, okay, here's another scenario, right? Let's think about if I were to have aspirations. I'd simply tackle it from the angle that I've been with you as a community. I've been there, so it's just really looking at
that is the biggest angle.
Yes, right. Yeah. So there's that too, but I think power mostly, that would be the proper answer. But I think they have different reasons, and maybe aspirations are different.
Would you ever get into politics? And remember, this is a recorded show.
Yes,
this will be popping up 10 years from now.
I think a lot of people have asked me that question. Yeah, and no, I'm very sure about that. Yeah.
Okay, but because your mentors, well, to some extent, jumped in there, you don't think it fared well for them? Like, it's not something for you, or you just saw what it did to some of the people that you work with?
I think I'm really good with strategy.
Okay.
I think I would be the perfect person to put behind the scenes.
Okay.
Right? I'd make things happen behind the scenes. I'd move things very well. I'm very good with that. I just don't think I'm the person who's at the front. Yeah. So if it's your movies, I'm the Steven Spielberg at the back. Right? Yeah.
Olivia Pope, the fixer. Okay. How then do you ultimately decide, you know what? I'm tired of people shifting the goalposts. Now I'm ready to go and do my own thing. How do you set up? And how do you set up a law firm?
So, hey, life is tough, guys. Life is tough, but thank God we made it through.
Yeah.
So I was then applying for jobs, and I did go for some interviews. And even when I went for those interviews, I felt like the energy was not matching, right? I'm trying to move away from an energy which is not matching, and I'll get to an interview, and the energy is still not working, And I'm like, this is off. Energy was important for me. The energy with Advocate Bilani was important. The energy with Sadiq was important. Now I'm getting to places where it's just not making sense for me, and energy is very important for me. I need to work in an environment where I can flourish and where everybody can flourish. And then I remember calling him and saying to him, you've just left me here, and and he's like, no, we'll try and work it out. It didn't work. So I called the Law Society of Botswana, and I'm like, what do you need for me? What is needed for me to start a law firm? And they're like, a letter. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I wrote the letter, and I had it delivered, and then I waited for a response, and there was a response to say, we don't oppose to you starting your firm. And then I wrote the letter around. Oh, we turned 8 on the 1st of July, by the way.
Yay!
Actually, happy birthday! Thank you. Yes, this was around mid-June. I got a response, and then I spoke to my boss at the time, and we agreed that it was just not happening. And he thought I was going somewhere else. He's like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going anywhere."
Did you have money saved up? Like,
no, nothing. I started on zero.
You are getting out of it. Do you have, like, what are you going to live off?
Faith.
Were you married?
Nope.
Jesus. Yeah, okay, that's a bold move.
Yes. I think I've always been bold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, because sometimes I don't know if it's about the situation getting overwhelming for someone before they jump ship, or, you know, when you just felt like, yo, listen, I can't do this anymore, and I can do better all by myself, and I'm going to do this. How did you have faith in that action?
It was one of those things where I said, I'm at the edge of the cliff. I'm going to jump. It's either I'm going to fly or I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
That was it. And those...
Like burnout.
And those 3 months, Ska, were the hardest 3 months. Like I said, it was worse than when my father had lost his job, right? I had a table, I had a pencil, right? And I said, if I just have one person come in, and then 2, you know, file number 1 and file number 2. And the goodness is that I think I built a relationship with the clients I had met at the previous law firms I had worked with, such that some of them actually said, if she's moving, then I'm also going to go with her. So it's about building trust and being honest as well. I think sometimes with clients, they want you to tell them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. I've come to realize that they will appreciate you for telling them what they need to hear. And so some of them followed me. Person number 001 followed me. It sounds like the COVID cases, COVID case 1, case 2, just like that. And slowly, by God's grace, it was tough. I went to my landlord and I told him, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay rent. This is my situation. I went to my father and I said, Daddy, I saved your job. I might come, I might come back home, prepare space for me in the sitting room or in the kitchen, you know. I just need a little mattress and somewhere. No, I mean, really, right? I just need a little mattress and a little corner and I'll be able to stay there. I told my parents I could come home. If I could come home, I told my landlord at the time, very understanding man. I told him this is what I'm going through. I was driving a little nice, small car at the time. I went to the bank and I'm like, guys, this might be the situation. And I came out of it slowly. With
the billing, I mean, I'm always fascinated about how you guys bill. How do you decide on a price range? When you're someone who's starting out, how do you start charging?
Initially, it would be an agreement between the lawyer and the client, right? There was nothing that was regulating so much the prices. But recently, the Chief Justice actually did put up a tariff, which tells you that if you've been practicing between 2 years and 2 and 5 years, this much, 5 and 10 is this much, 15, just like that. So there is a tariff, but in as much as there is a tariff, remember what I said to you earlier on, which is what I feel we pride ourselves on, the ability to sit down and talk to someone and say, what are your means? What do you have? What can we help you with what you have?
Because this is personal.
It is personal. And also, I think for me, law is one of those careers where we take an oath. It's like being a doctor. Are you going to just pass somebody who's lying on the floor because the person's not in a hospital, or did you take an oath that you would serve? So I take it as personally as it's an oath that I took to be able to give the best of my skill. And so I need to make sure we find a way to help you.
I want to know about some of the challenges of owning and running a law firm in such a male-dominated industry. I know Matthews and Muribame because, I'm saying he's my cousin. But that's why you're so fascinating to us also, or, your name is on the door. So, how do you guys, do against the men?
I would understand after so many years of running the show, making decisions, and then here comes this little girl who I would understand. I think there's expectations of, especially for me, I'll speak about myself. There've been expectations where people have expected me to tone myself down or bring myself down or reduce myself. I think that has been one of my biggest challenges.
In what way? Like
personality-wise.
Humble yourself.
I think there's a difference between being humble.
Yeah.
I think when I came here, I was humble, right, Ska?
Yes, you were very, very humble. She's very,
that
very...
sounds like an answer in a duress.
No, I think people check out women way more than they check out a guy. If I walked in here and I just had a serious face, you'd be like, yo, this man is about his business. If you came here and you didn't, engage us like that, we'd think, yes, sister, well, we wouldn't, because we're not insecure. But like some people judge women a lot more than they would guys.
Yes.
So I think I get what you mean about that.
I've been really, really judged. Yeah. And surprisingly, even by the women, right? So I think as women, we would do more if we actually did support each other. Yeah. And by supporting, I'm not talking about how we make it look like, oh, I'm for women. Are you genuinely for women empowerment? Is that really what you do when you see a woman, Or is it something that you're giving out to say, I support women, I'm for women, when you, in actual fact, you're not?
You're fronting.
Right? Exactly. There's a lot of that. And in fact, when you look at my career, you'd see that there's been a lot of influence from men than there's been from women. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So there's that gap. Yeah. I've been judged a lot. A lot of things have been and continue to be said about me. I believe there's
Give us like some examples.
I believe there's a WhatsApp group.
Oh, come on.
I'm joking.
You're not. I'm sure. Is he joking? No, I'm taking it over to the PA. There is a WhatsApp group, huh? You guys need to stop it. So the judgment comes from colleagues, but how then does it find its way to you?
I don't know. Things. Yes, actually. I think maybe that's why, Ska, I'm sure as you were doing your research, it was very difficult for you to find personal things about me, right?
There was absolutely nothing. And you just ducked the question about how you met your husband. But I'll get to
it, I promise. Yes. So, I've really stayed away. I've stayed away from anything or anyone that doesn't grow me or serve my purpose. But there's been a lot of judgment. There's been a lot of instances where you could see that in this case, it's simply a situation of this is a woman and this is a man. And actually, I'm going to say this. Some of the cases even as well that have made headlines, it's nothing that has not been done before. Yeah. I wonder, is it because of the timing? Is it because of the fact that I'm a woman? You do get to ask yourself those questions as well. Yeah. And just the playing field sometimes was not level. You get into a courtroom, the person you're against is a man, the judge is a man, the people in there are men. It's just a lot of testosterone already, right? And then,
the building.
Yes. Hey. And then you're there trying to, and then everybody's like, and then, so.
And dudes are different in different ways, man. Like I know some dudes that can be disgusting just from how they're looking at you.
Yes.
And like there's a whole lot of, they come in different colors. We come in different colors.
Yes, the status quo of, and this is what I'm saying, not being able to realize that, oh, she's my colleague. She's got an LLB. Yeah. It's this woman. She must roll up a mat and serve me pale chili. Like, excuse me. So I think then when you actually set the record straight to say, I am a colleague, I am qualified enough, I deserve to be here, I shouldn't even be justifying why I'm here. Yeah. Then it comes off as, who does she think she is? She thinks she's the best thing that happened since sliced bread. So, yeah.
Jeez, man. So
it's swimming against the tide.
Yeah, swimming against the tide. Let's talk a little bit about you going to the States. How long ago was this?
This was last year. I went in June. This time.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. So you're near this trip to the United States of America. There's a Young African Leaders Fellowship, Mandela Washington Fellowship. Barack Obama. Yes. Was this before or after you had set up your law firm?
It was after.
It was after.
Yes. This was last year. So we had just turned 7 last year. Yeah. Yeah. That's when I went to the States.
So how does that help you? Since now you're a practicing attorney, you got your own law firm. You're a big deal, How?
Not yet.
How then do you sign up for this, and why was it important for you to get into this fellowship?
There was a friend of mine who's like someone who actually makes sure that having friends who are intentional and say you need to do this, you need to do that. That's very important, and paying it forward. Yes. Right. So if it's done for me, I also pay it forward. So there's a friend of mine who kept saying, "You're a leader, and I'm just like. Leading where? Leading what? I'm just here trying to mind my own business and run my little, And then she's like, you need to apply for this. She was just on my neck. You need to apply for this. And I applied for it. I was hesitant. Yeah. And then I got an email that you're in. Went for the interview, and then went to the presidential precinct. It's a leadership organization.
Yes.
So for 6 weeks I was there, and they taught us about leadership. And then after that, only about 10% of everyone who is taken to America stays behind to do a PDE. That is, you actually work with an organization.
I was about to ask you that, Hore.
Yeah.
When everyone was sent home, you stayed behind. How did that feel? To work in the American legal system?
Scar, you see that faith I spoke about earlier? Yeah. Everything will runs through. It's about not stopping. It's about persistence. It's about genuinely believing each and every time. In good times when you have nothing, and in good times and in bad times.
Yeah.
So there was that faith, and then. And some of us, I think, are here to break protocol. I had to say that. I'm sorry.
The status quo. No, the last ceiling.
Some of us are here for that. Yeah. So I then worked at an organization called the Urban Justice Center. It's a group of lawyers. It's an NGO where they help people who don't have the means. And remember, I spoke to you about the importance for me in law that we should also help people who don't have, right? So now I'm connected to this organization, and I'm seeing what this organization can do, and the government is giving them money to be able to help those who are in need, and it extends to those who are even coming from outside the states, from Mexico, from the different islands that are there, and I have different people coming, different clients coming in every day. I need an application for a green card. I need an application, and you're doing that, and that was quite fulfilling, and I was able to see what it could be like if there was stakeholders or people there to be able to provide for those who didn't have.
What is the legal aid situation in Botswana? And as far as pro bono work, I mean, we did talk to, I think we've talked to someone before who's in the legal fraternity. I think the Chief Justice sometimes requires 2 pro bono cases a year or something.
Yes.
So I don't know. Does that even happen in Botswana? How many legal practitioners are out there really, really serving the community?
Yes, I think it becomes a personal thing, right? We are not, in the sense of money, the biggest law firm in the country. But we were intentional about saying for every 10 people, we'll charge for 9 and take one on. There are some special cases that come in, and you just can't turn them away.
How do I become the lucky number 9? Or do I just have to show up?
It's not about luck. It's not about luck. It's about the need. Really seeing that this person is in dire straits, and the only hope I have. The only hope this person has is me, right? So there are some cases where people have come in running, and you can tell that I don't know. It's so difficult to answer. I don't have like a template that I picked this one. It's just one person once in a while. We're just trying to do our best, and give back. But for us, that's an intentional thing. Our mission is to be legal service with a difference, right? And then you have those firms which do and those firms which don't. And then with criminal matters, yes, you do get assigned criminal matters. Yes, those ones I have received, I think 1 or 2. But I don't do a lot of criminal law. So there's that. And then there's Legal Aid Botswana, which does assist for those who I need. I believe you do an assessment, and if you don't earn within a certain amount, then Legal Aid Botswana will assist you.
Entertainment law. We don't have a lot of people. Is there entertainment law in Botswana?
Wherever there are people discussing or agreeing on something in whatever field, there is law there. So yes.
So but what do we have? Practitioners by like, let's say family law or property law or that. How many of those do we have in Botswana that really look into entertainment law like that?
I think the reason, and I'm going to blame you for this.
Oh Lord.
I think the reason why it hasn't really been a big thing, Scar, is because the owners of it have not taken it seriously enough.
Okay.
Right? It has not been taken as a business. It was something like a hustle or a side. It was not being taken seriously. And then I'm also going to take it back to the fact that when now there's a situation and you take a certain entity to court as the small as the artist, or it'll be don't work with this person. This person is difficult. There's that. So I think
lawyering. People stop working with you.
So now you're sitting there, you've worked, you've done 5 shows, jumping up and down on the stage, and that's a lot of work, right?
Yes.
And then it's time to get paid, you are not paid, right? And then you don't want to see Mbewe because you know that if I see Mbewe tomorrow, if there's a gig, I won't get a gig. Why is that the narrative? Why shouldn't the narrative rather be for every person who's going to be on stage, it's the sweat of their brow. They should be remunerated accordingly. And if not, there should be consequences for that. The other problem is that not taking it as a business means you meet and you're like, no, how much can I do it for 10 pula? Okay, that's fine. We don't put things down in writing. And then tomorrow you come to me and you say, we agreed on this. And then the other party says, no, that was not the agreement, because you feel that you're in the same industry. So going to see a lawyer or putting something in writing doesn't mean you don't trust the person, or doesn't mean that's not your brother or your sister or your colleague or someone you grew up in the industry with. It's just to make sure that you actually keep that relationship. Some of the relationships have died simply because people did not put it down in writing. And then there's another thing. Google.
The Google contract.
I just can't.
And AI is now here. Hey. And we really love shortcuts.
Oh my God. And you will pay for that shortcut, you know? So it is more expensive for you not to have a lawyer. It's more expensive. The price you're going to pay because you think you are saving by not going to talk to Mbewe to say, what can I pay you for this so that everything is what that price is going to be heavy. And this is the relationships that we've seen that are broken. This is the abuse. There's been a lot of abuse by big entities and people to say, well, I have the money, nothing. What can you do? What are you going to do? You know, that's abuse. And let's not accept that.
You were part of a really big case recently. I don't know if you're at liberty to speak about it. That involved, an events organizing crew of guys who went up against a whole parastatal. And, I don't know if we can speak their names, or is this ongoing because there might be appeals and stuff.
Who's your lawyer?
It just might be you soon. Hey, no, a parastatal, and we know, if I say the other one, oh God. No, born and raised, the event just recently. Please, mommy. They recently won a case against the Botswana Telecommunications communications, and it was something we had never seen before as entertainers. No one goes up against them or anything that looks like it's got government next to it. Never mind the fact that it is one of the biggest, capacity. So it's a big deal. They sued. I guess it was for infringing of a contract that they had, and I can't get into all of the details. But then they won the case, and the deputy sheriff attached some property, BTC, and guys were live on Facebook going to collect. Goodness, these dudes did it. How did you get involved in a situation like that? And did you know from the jump that you could win it?
Yes. All things being fair. All things being fair, when a client comes to you, you are able to assess to say high prospects, medium prospects, low prospects.
Okay.
So all things being fair. Yes. And we happen to be in one country, having been to different jurisdictions. I've been in South Africa, I have friends in Zimbabwe. We happen to be a country where we still have a good democracy. We have a judiciary. There's a place you can run to.
Yeah, things work.
Yes, there's a place you can run to. If you listen to some of my colleagues who are lawyers in different countries, I don't want to mention the countries, maybe they won't allow me to cross the border.
No, sick.
Right? Yeah. You ask yourself, okay, especially for someone like me who is very passionate about law, to be able to practice in a place where things would not be fair, it's a waste. There would be no point. I'll just have been at home and told my parents, save that money, I'll get married and do something, since in some places being married is an achievement. Right?
You digress.
So when you have a country like this where you can run to court as any person, right? Even sometimes without a lawyer, you should take advantage of that. There is protection there. What has been making people not go to court? You guys, the entertainers, the entertainment industry,
we don't go
the
there
artists. Yes, because
At all,
because
really?
of no, it's this person, it's that person.
I think that I hear me, so I get small claims. Because my dear Rona so maybe if it's not an amount that's small, I really don't understand why we never took it upon ourselves. But continue.
So 2 things. The first one is this should give everyone hope. It should give you hope that it doesn't matter who you are. If anyone does something wrong to you, then there should be repercussions for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether big private entity, a parastatal, government. There's another case that's trending where one big entity has lost a lot of millions.
Yeah.
So it shows you that things,
I saw that one too.
Exactly, things are
those
fair.
ones have. Hey, that one is a lot of money.
Right? So we were, I think because this is entertainment law, this was entertaining. But there's actually been one which is it's a lot of money. And that
For those who don't read the news, Google Botswana, okay, and just check out what's going on. Okay.
Hey.
I said it,
he
not
said it.
her.
Yes.
But the story is really, really big, and I think there's a lot of the little guys are really going out for it, and I think that this is. I don't know if it's happening of recent because I do keep my eye to the news. I haven't seen so many judgments on the side of the little man like I've been seeing of recent.
Because the little man is not going to court. Right.
Yeah.
The little man feels I don't have the money for court. The little man feels I can't go and see Mbewe and discuss how to go about it. You've just been sitting. These things have been happening for years. This is not the first time you've heard of a situation where, and then we instill fear in people. Oh, how dare you? Yeah. You are never going to. Why should it be like that? But when the tables are turned, it's okay. Is that equality or is that all of us being equal?
Yeah.
So that's one of them. And then the second one is, I think entertainment law followed me. That was definitely not my area. And it started with Makadzi.
I was coming there.
It started there, and there are still friends of mine who don't talk to me because of that. I'm sorry.
You are the reason she's not coming into the country.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
You are the reason she's not coming into the country because I think was it the same dudes that actually went against BNR as well? Well, is it the same guys who came to you?
No,
or
it was
a different
It was a different.
Hey, so Bono, what was that thing? She didn't come for a concert?
Yes, you get paid SCAR to come and perform and you don't perform.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really that simple. It's either you're going to refund. But then the other thing in law is that it's not as easy as I'm going to refund.
Yeah.
The reputational harm of people, some people bought tickets knowing they were going to meet her. Yeah. And they get there and everyone knows she's coming and she doesn't come and she puts it on Facebook that I'm not coming. So the price you pay.
Oh, that was used also.
Yes. The price you pay for not coming. Right? So I think I'm happy because your industry sky is growing. One, South Africa is even the amount of money we pay or South African musicians are paid compared to local artists.
Yeah,
it's really painful. It's not even 10%. It's really painful. So at what point are we going to take ourselves serious enough, even as local artists, to say you're booking me for $250,000?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And we've got talented musicians, and oh my God,
So
yeah.
I need you to give me one more case.
The other
Which one is the other one that made the news and we didn't know you were there? Because I'm starting to see a trend, and I think because in the music fraternity, word of mouth.
I did the opposite recently, actually, last year, December. I actually, it was the opposite, right? So with my kazi, it was, we're going to detain you until you pay, right? But with Sheba Shit, I did the opposite, right? Sheba Shit was given money to come and perform, and he didn't come and perform. And I think there was a warrant for his arrest. So then I had to go to court, and we had to make payment of that. There's that one. I think I don't want to continue.
No, we want one more.
Why?
No, because you know what? I think it's possible, young black men and women, to get legal representation and things actually fall on your side. I think we've just given up on so many things right now. Even us as PODI-CAST here, you know, we have a matter.
Not now.
But I think sometimes, you know, we're doing an injustice to ourselves, because if you don't, then I think the rates, I don't know if you're at liberty to talk about what are competitive rates. Do you remember what the tariffs said, Chief Justice?
Off the top of my head, I can't, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, Sky, even if the rates are there, it doesn't mean when you come to me and say, Mbewe, I can't, can we agree on? There's still that provision for an agreement. So the rates are there, but they really have nothing to do with the relationship. Don't forget, not everyone who comes to see me some of them are family members, some of them are friends, some of them are referrals. So it's different relationships. Also, an individual, sometimes you can't charge an individual the same way you charge a big company. Right? So there are those things that come into play. So it's really a relationship between you, attorney-client relationship.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Wow, do I get a song? Because we really need to lawyer up. Rona, we really need to lawyer up before we put our foot in our mouths. Okay, what are some of the unexploited opportunities in the legal industry in Botswana currently?
I think a lot of industries that are still growing, right? Small businesses. I've realized that a lot of small businesses where our mothers, our aunts are busy selling small things and doing small, just the small businesses. I think nobody's regulating those types of contracts. There's buying and selling. There's import and export. There are no contracts in place. It's one of those. Can I have 10 potatoes over? Can I have 10 potatoes? All these small things. Yes. Every single thing, Sky, is a contract. Everything is a contract, including me being here with everything is a contract. So I think once we get that into everyone's heads that you are doing this to protect yourself and protect. I've seen these small businesses, people lose 700,000 based on the fact that they worked on trust. And at that point, it's just it's painful, and the person is crying, and you want to help. So I think we just need to become more, yes, we are a unit, we are a country, we all love each other. There's very few of us, we all know each other. But because we love each other and we trust each other and we want to work well together, let's protect those relationships by having contracts. Not the opposite. I'll trust you because your uncle was a very good friend to my late. Those are the things that are killing us, and we're not growing because of that. Personally, I've seen a contract come back and just completely rock our family a little bit. It was like a contract I think my grandfather had with a friend, and this dude was making payments every time he came to visit. We're thinking Uncle Samamang is here. He's coming to make a payment. My grandfather passes away. This dude wanted land. Yep. And then you see it, right? And then you see all of it, and then the ripple, the trickle-down effect in the family. Now others are uncertain. The grandkids don't know if we have Masimo anymore. It's like, it was so crazy to experience. And I think that's why you need to do it. Earlier on, you're like, I'm scared. Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for the future generation? Yeah. Because it is going to trickle down, right? Everything you're going to work for now, Sky, if you don't protect because you don't want to step on anyone's foot or anything, it will trickle down to your children. And then the same notion that you don't sue. It will also, for the future generations, continue, right? Yeah. So let's change it here and let's change it now.
All right. I want to ask this because, we're about to wrap it up because but I'm really loving this conversation. I'm learning a whole lot. I wish you'd had more of your drink, but you're focused. You're focused. But this one, you will need a sip. Would you want to be Chief Justice one day? Or a judge?
I don't have aspirations to be a judge.
Okay.
Just like I don't have aspirations to be a politician. I have aspirations to serve. Maybe serving, like I said, in a position where I'm making things happen somewhere in the back. I do have maybe a diplomat, Yeah, those are the aspirations I have, definitely to serve. I think I have been serving in my own way, right, over the years. But I definitely serve my country. But judge, there's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
And then we still have the death penalty, so I don't want to be sleeping and then somebody is making noise in my ears because I sentenced them to death. I don't think I have the guts for that.
I'm trying to figure out, what are your aspirations then in this legal fraternity? Because can you be a serial like lawyer just making money and just like Harvey on Suits? I don't know if you watch Suits.
Yes.
Do you see yourself as that, or what do you see for your future in the legal space?
I really do see, like I said, being a diplomat. Sorry.
No, continue.
Why am I apologizing when it's not my show?
I should be saying sorry.
Yes. I think I've always wanted to be a diplomat, Sky. I think that's the answer.
But you know what that comes with, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, are you? Because I'm not asking you who you're going to vote for.
Yeah.
But are you politically active?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's very important.
Are you at liberty to expose why? I mean, maybe people love you right now, so you might advise them to vote for someone.
Scar.
How do you play that game? Because it's a sensitive one here in Botswana. Affiliation with this party, that party. Are you at liberty to tell us which one?
I think that's, for me, it's a personal decision, right? It's like my faith. I think that certain things I'll divulge, but with that one I won't.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not going to tell people whom to vote for.
But it comes with that, though. If you're ultimately going to be a diplomat, you have to be, I guess, with the incumbent party.
But you see, look at South Africa, right? We don't know in the next 5 years who it'll be or who it won't be, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, the most important part would be the fact that I'm able to serve. Mm-hmm. So if I'll be able to serve, then I'll be good.
Okay. All right. And what are the general mistakes that you think Botswana make when it comes to legal matters on issues like that affect them daily? Estate planning, marriage, acquisition of property. What are some of the mistakes that you see them making? And shout out to Simon for this question. Yeah, talk to my lawyer friends.
I think listening to a lot of, I thought I was a lawyer until I sat in a place where people are speaking about the law, and I realized, oh my God, it's such a distorted notion of view of what the law is. It's always and not really getting to know or understand what the law is, and hearing it from another person who's not a lawyer and actually applying it.
Yeah.
Right. There's that. TV.
Hey, we all watch those shows, man.
Those shows are far from reality. Those shows are far from what really happens. I stay away from them. Actually, I don't enjoy watching those shows. You know, TV, listening to what people say, Google, and some customs and traditions.
You want to break that down a little bit?
With customs and traditions, some people think that, for instance, somebody asked me recently, they say that when you stay with someone for 6 months, you are married.
Oh, your cohabitation.
Yes.
Hey.
There's that. And
is it true though, or after a certain amount of time, what's yours is mine?
Scar, have you not been living with someone for more than 6 months? Are you married?
No, I'm not married. But you see,
it's things you hear through the grapevine
in the street,
right?
yeah.
And then
just to justify cohabiting.
Yes, and then the other one is about property as well. How you divide property. People don't know that property is divided according to, one, it could be based on how your parents were married, right? If your parents were married under customary law, that is, they went to the khutla, then how it's going to be divided will be based on the custom, and the custom is different. But if your parents were married in community of property, it will be divided in a different way. And if they were married out of community of property, it will be divided in a different way. And if they were not married but lived together, and one of the parties actually did in some way through skill, labor, or money contribute to a certain asset or estate, that they would be able to maybe claim from it a percentage under universal partnership. So you see how it's a web, and I need to sit down and break it down for you, but now you're on Google.
How are you going to get all of that off Google? It's like that also. So you do need some
it's very
some
important.
representation
It's very, very important. And just to protect assets also for children. So
these rules and these customs, firstborn gets this, lastborn son gets this. can someone actually go to court and start saying, "Oh, yo, I'm the last born son. This is mine"?
If it's the custom, yes.
Custom yabo man.
Custom of the father, yes. Custom of your father who married your mother. It will move from customary court, and then remember we have a court of appeal. So if a customary court makes the customary court makes a decision that you're not happy about, this is the highest customary court, you can go to the court of appeal. And our court of appeal has the right to apply any custom. So if it is the custom, it will apply that custom, even though you will find different judges there, but it will apply the custom. So, yes.
Okay, and one of the past cases that they benchmark on and stuff like that.
It.
TV. I get Solomon versus Tato 2017. This was the judgment, and like they based it on previous cases.
It has to matter. It has to be the same thing. If it's not Tato versus Solomon in this particular case, if there's no relation, it is inapplicable. So unless it applies to a.
That's why you have the LLB. And I just binge watch Law and Order. Hey, wait, stop watching those things, man. No, I'm always on them, and I'm realizing, we'll get ourselves in jail.
Yeah, and that's American law. We have Roman Dutch law, right? And then there's English law.
Okay.
So also the sort of law that we are practicing, what sort of law is it? So you are going to apply American law, English law to Roman Dutch law. So it's a beautiful thing.
No, it's a confusing one. I want to find out about justice delayed. Yeah, there's a lot of that. From rape cases. What do you, and we've all given it compliments as much as we can about how things work in Botswana, but how long does it usually take for matters like that to be handled? I don't know how to ask this question, because how do they choose which ones are urgent and which ones are not? So
apparently every lawyer's answer to a question is it depends. Apparently.
Break it down.
It depends, Scar. It depends on whether it's a civil matter, right? So for instance, the matter you just finished talking about, that's a matter that started in 2020 and we're finishing now in 2024. Right? Don't forget we had a pandemic as well. So the judiciary is not immune to pandemics. If it's a criminal matter also, it will depend, right? If it's a customary court matter, where did it start up until whether it reaches the High Court or the Court of Appeal? So it really depends. Also the judges. Some judges are faster than others, right? So it does depend. But for me personally, I'd say you should give a case up to about 3 years. Yeah. Is that too long?
I don't know.
Based on the principle you're fighting for, or based on your children's estate?
I think maybe sometimes it's just that you think other people who have influence are probably in the background there saying something to keep matters on the books for longer, because maybe someone doesn't have enough money to stay lawyered up for some time. So I think that's where sometimes people think, I might as well not even try.
Yes, that's where the financial muscle comes in, where you're constantly paying a lawyer to go to court to go and postpone a matter, move a matter, so that you frustrate the other person, right? So it's a tactic that
people can do that.
Yes,
also.
It's a tactic that they've been doing for years, right? And so that's why I'm saying that. Are we going to persevere through it? Are we going to now take away once we say, look, we'll do 10 years, fine, let's go. Once the other entity knows that it doesn't matter how long it will take, then you've also taken from them. But if they know they're going to wear you out, they will wear you out.
That's why it's about
No, don't be afraid.
We shouldn't be afraid.
No, don't.
Don't walk in fear, man. Fear is the presence of the devil. We are people of faith. We walk fearlessly. You were talking about faith. Where do you go to church?
Roman Catholic.
Oh, Roma.
Yes.
Okay.
Confirmed Catholic.
Out here confessing. Do you ever get inside there and talk to the guy in the veil there?
Yes, I have.
I'm really paranoid, man. I just think, he'll see me and it's my face. And it's like, I know his business.
Now I'll take them to the cleaners if they do.
There's also that.
Yeah.
What improvements or changes do you think could be added to the legal system to support victims of gender-based violence?
For me, what I've seen, because those are matters I've done a lot, actually. I do a lot of protection orders under the Domestic Violence Act. And there's one thing that's really frustrating me. Enforcement. We have a beautiful act, but enforcement.
Police.
Yes. Law enforcement and just saying, look, I have this order already. Can you help me go here? We don't have that. So I think if we can motivate that enforcement, that will in turn scare the perpetrator from knowing that, okay, this will happen. And if you look at it, it's the same thing, right? We just spoke about big entities bullying little entities. So once you take away that thing which the perpetrator or the big entity banks on, then they become powerless. It's the same thing. So I really feel like some perpetrators know that you're going to report, it will take 7 days before anyone comes to see me, right? And I'm saying this from experience. We ourselves, as a firm, have been victims of GBV. We've had recently a man walk into our firm and actually victimize us. Yes. And then when we went to the police and said, "This is what has I did everything according to what I know, right, and how I've been helping everyone else, and it's just taken forever." But because we know the law, we were able to go the civil way and get a restraining order. So how many women have access to a restraining order, Scar? The woman who's selling sweets on the side of the road, if she doesn't have access to an attorney or restraining order, this is how this person gets killed, right? So there's that enforcement and also education. We cannot educate people enough. I was surprised to find that people didn't know what financial abuse was or psychological abuse was. Everybody knows abuse to be you beat me up, or verbal. And also that men get abused, So yes, there's a lot of things there's a lot of education and awareness that needs to be done. A lot of training, especially for our law enforcement officers, so that we can the Chief Justice has already said it's urgent. So when I go to court for a restraining order, I'm going on an urgent basis. I don't have to wait. I jump the queue. And I get what I need to get. So the judiciary is doing its part there. But how do we get to a point where we have restraining orders and people are still getting beaten up? People are still getting killed? There's a problem there. There's a disconnect there. And once we close that, I think we can do much better.
Come on, the police need, it's scary to think about, which then brings in the question of security. I mean, have you beefed up your security now?
I've had to. I've also taken up boxing classes, so come to my office anytime.
His face.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the bully mentality.
Yes.
Could they really believe like they own someone? That also.
I think, like I said, Ska, it's an empowerment thing from all angles. Whether it's business, be empowered; personal life, be empowered. And we're a small population. We have what it takes to be able to reduce those numbers. Those numbers are harrowing, So no,
majita gore ke nne ke ba bolelela gore kana do you understand gore ha kopana le mme mo passage gore ngwana wa modimo ba tshogile yang wa bona kra ra ba tshosa. It's like how many experiences you have just walking out of here and how many men you run into and just the feeling at the end. We're just free, we're okay. But like we scare women because of all of these things that are happening. So hey, I'm not, supporting violence, guys.
I also don't support violence.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. We're getting towards the end of our conversation, but I want to talk about how you balance your professional career and also being a wife at home. Marang was mad at me about asking these questions. Marang Sulolwan, she was asking me if I asked her husband, but your husband is not here, so I'm going to ask you, or not, how do you strike a balance between such a demanding job and also, your family? I mean, it's been 8 years.
I think I've got split personalities.
Okay.
I did
schizophrenia.
Yes, I did.
Google diagnosed.
I've got split personalities. Like I said, I know when it's time to work. I know when it's time to be a wife, and I've got a very supportive husband. I think a lot of people who've met him are just like, this.
Do you guys have any babies?
Yes.
Okay.
One.
Okay.
One boy. Very supportive man who is there cheering me throughout and actually telling me that I can do better and be better, you know. So there's a lot of support from home. And I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier on about us making sure that we empower the boy child as well, to be able to know that a woman being able to achieve or do something well within the home is a benefit for the home. It's a win for the home, right? Not just a win for the woman. So I think there are a lot of self-esteem issues that I've realized. But other than that, I think I'm the best. I know how to cook paleche.
I'm the best.
Paleche.
Yeah.
Paleche, le cabbage, le. If you want to be, this is the secret to marriage. If you want to be married for a long time, know how to cook paleche and cabbage and mogatla. I'm joking. Yeah.
No doubt, mommy. So what is he into? What line of
He's a medical doctor.
Oh, he's a medical doctor. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the pressure on your son.
No, actually, I want him to do what? Is it Formula 1? Yeah, that's what I want him to do. I grew up under pressure, so I definitely don't want... Yeah.
You don't want to pile the pressure on him. Yes. You didn't tell us how you guys met.
Yes. But
we got to take it back there. We got to take it there.
We met at night at 10 p.m.
At 10 p.m.
So ladies, don't be in the house. Ain't nobody coming to find you in the house. Go out.
Yeah.
So I was getting into someone's yard and he was coming out.
Oh, okay.
So Rahapani.
Oh.
Yes.
At first sight?
Yes, Rahapani. And I greeted him, he greeted me. I couldn't see him. No, because they're dark. No, West Africans are dark, right? I could just see his eyes. Yeah. But I was like, this man is tall, you know? So, and he says that when I took his hand and greeted him, I actually looked at his ring finger and I was like, that's what he says. That's his version. But I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Right? And then so, and then after that, he was calling the house I went to, the lady. He just kept on calling her, can I please have that girl's number?
Oh.
Can I please have that girl's number? So she then gave him my number and then he called me. I think it was like 1 a.m. He's like, can I please take you out for breakfast tomorrow?
Whoa.
And
you were really
me being the girl who's like, Lenyalo has arrived. I said yes, definitely. He came, he picked me up, and we went to, can I say the place?
You can.
Went to Magan Bin Sibili, that's our spot.
Oh,
that was our first date. And Chelsea was playing, I remember.
Okay.
And he taught me what an offside was.
Okay.
And then what got me was that he prayed when the food came.
Oh,
so back to faith. Yeah.
Okay.
Have I answered you?
Thank you, Lord, for the food we're about to receive, and bless the hands that help prepare them. Amen. Anyhow, yes. I want to find out from you if you have some favorite law practitioners in Botswana, past and present. If you can give me a top 5.
Top 5.
Maybe what they're really good at that you see and you're like, yo, yeah. If it was like a top 5. Hip hop, whatever, we love lists.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I definitely advocate Bilani. I mean, that is my foundation.
Is he still practicing now?
Yes, he's still practicing.
You see, this is why you guys got a cheat code. You can go out there into the world, try, and then I'm gonna go back and do my practice.
But Scar, I mean, there's a lot of lack of sleep. It's a
hard job.
Oh. It's very demanding. Lack of sleep, always reading. It's just really
But
tough.
to be on that level like him, what's in his head, man?
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
It's a talent.
No, that man is, he's smart. He's like really, really brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one thing. Yeah. And he works hard. He pairs it up with working hard.
With the work.
There's one thing to be brilliant and not actually put in the work.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely him. He will always be in my top 5.
Yeah.
I will... Muribami Matthews for being a female-led law firm that we young females can look up to.
Yeah.
The third one, yes, definitely. She's an amazing person.
Yeah.
And then the third one would be we cannot take away from Ngakayahai. We can't.
I can't do easy on social media.
He's doing his work. He's busy doing his work. The criminal law.
Yeah,
we can't
people are
take away
asking
from
for him to come back on social media because like he was such also a powerful social commentator.
Yeah.
But like his perspective on things, I think he realized, well, we need to be paying for that.
He's really brilliant when it comes to criminal law. Like I just, I give him his flowers. The next one would be, God, this is difficult.
That's significant names missing right now.
Njiramanda, Mbewe.
Okay. Come on, that's what we love to hear. That's what we love to hear.
Come on.
What about her?
That was a joke.
We clapped.
Okay, I would say for being I think I'm a disruptor.
Yeah.
I love that about
Even
myself.
being here, I mean, we really love that. That's why we're asking you all the hard questions because we know we are mostly entertainment here a lot of the time, but we identified really, really amazing and trailblazers that we really would like to get into the minds of, and even like your story right now. Yeah, that is the average Botswana story.
Yes.
Who did amazing things. That's what we love about it, and so we'll add to
Can I move myself to the first and then find a second?
Hey, we do it. Who's number 2? Who's number 2?
Number 2 right now, I would give it to. Just give me a moment.
And I did say past and present, right?
Past. I think I've done enough past. Present. It's tough. Did I mention any other? Oh, I mentioned women. Okay.
Dick Bayford?
It can be a top. No, he's not in my top 5. Maybe he'll be in someone's top 5.
Duma Boko.
I love the way he speaks. He's an orator. Like he's good at speaking.
That's a soft burn.
No, but he's not in my top. We're talking. Okay. He's not in my top 5.
Okay, your top 5. This is all yours. Like
Do you still want to give me suggestions?
I don't have any other suggestions.
You've also run out.
She's got a suggestion. Who you got? Wame who?
Oh, top number 2, without a doubt.
Yeah.
My girl.
Who?
Attorney Wame Tanke of Tanke and Associates.
Okay.
And guess what?
Okay.
We were born on the same day.
She's a Libra also.
October 1st.
Yeah.
Libra. So there must be something. So when you're planning children, do the mathematics. 1st October is the formula. So Mbewe 1, 2, Wame Tanke, done.
Wow. Awesome. No, October was strong, not about 23.
You see? There you go.
No. This one.
Libra, Scorpio. Are you Scorpio?
Yes. I'm on what they call the cast.
Yeah, like my mother. Yeah, you're exactly my mom's.
That thing is
you're
just
right
difficult.
There. Yeah.
We're this side. So, but this is not about me. This is about you. And I wanna wrap it up with your future aspirations. What are your future goals and aspirations for your practice and also in your activism? Because like I can hear, your mind is in so many things, and you. I'm gotta localize, but like you break it down like to the microest level. Yes. And she has a restraining order. She has to go to work every morning.
Yes.
And from anywhere.
Yes.
So I'm happy that someone is thinking about those and trying to help out our sisters and also our brothers. What are your future goals? And your aspirations for the practice and also in that other line of work, activism?
Okay, for the practice, definitely to grow and to have more companies, especially those that are owned by men, believing in women and in the capabilities of women. Not because we won a case or because we're in the news, but because you actually do believe that we can do it. Inclusion and diversity for me is very, very important. So I don't want it to be about aesthetics anymore. It should be those Mbewe legal ladies can actually put up a good fight, and we can, and we are deserving, right? That's for the firm to train as many lawyers as possible, female lawyers, and give them an opportunity to mentor as many young girls as possible, because I can see that is lacking. It is also lacked in my life to some extent, and I'm only trying to make up for it now by meeting other women who have gone ahead of me. But for them, that it's easier, that when they are still in school or when they just come out of school, there's someone that they can identify with and look up to, who can be able to give them direction in their lives so that there is success. And success really meaning for everyone. So in as much as I'm a feminist, I do believe in the holistic view that both the man and the woman should succeed, as we both have dreams and aspirations, and we should support each other. As a person, to become less serious. Apparently, I don't smile a lot, but what's there to smile about, guys? Things are hard out here. It's wild, or what? So,
but the activism part as well. Are you recruiting people to look at matters, to to try and come up with like young hubs that can look at trying to get the police more involved in
doing a lot of that. It becomes exhausting sometimes, Scar, because the fraternity itself, they say the law is a jealous mistress, right? So the fraternity itself also is very difficult. So doing that plus mentoring plus having. We just had an event recently, having events where you're trying to educate, where you're trying to create awareness. All of it's quite difficult. So I think if we can grow more, then it will take away most of the duties or obligations I have, which would allow me to do more in the sense of activism as well. So to growth, I believe success, prosperity, sipping a mimosa somewhere at the age very soon, in a few years' time, on a boat with my husband. They're not, worrying about anything. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to. And really just, I like to say, built not to shrink down into less, but to blossom into more.
Awesome stuff. And thank you so much for hanging out with us.
I can't say
it more.
This is my first podcast.
Come on. No, we're happy.
Now people are going to have dirt on me. I know you didn't find anything on me.
No, at least the kind of history came. But personable, and that's what we always see on names on these legal matters on the news, and we're thinking uptight human beings. But
no, I'm a vibe.
No, it's a whole vibe, and lawyers are human beings too, and they're only here to serve, and they're here to help us. And thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me, Scar.
Njiramanda Mbewe Boatey. Hey, double barrel.
Hey.
Why?
So that both families are incorporated. Equality, both families are incorporated.
Hey, mine is Matlabapiri. I'm worried about what she's going to do.
Hey, mama.
Double what? You can't. You just have to put that 14 into that. Thank you so much. Do people call you Amanda?
No, Njira.
Hey. All right. Thank you, Njira. And that is the end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll check you out again next week. The holidays are coming up in a couple of days. So, this whole month is all about holidays. So, it's been dope hanging out with you guys. My name is SCAR, and I will see you with my homies from Local Corner. Shout out Drinks Direct. It was delicious. We will see you again next week. We out. Peace.
People of different identities.